this how you want it to be?
You want me to touch my hair?
Welcome to Smell My Podcast.
It should really be called the John and Sip Show. Shut.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Johnny. Cool. I love you. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Getting very cavalier with your input.
I feel as co-host, I have the jurisdiction.
Co-host.
You know what I mean,
Sorry. No touching of the hair.
guys. I'm not going to do any more promise.
I have the worst news. Although the money guy is going to argue that it's the best news. I feel like it's going to get heated. Joking. I always agree with you. They are closing my school. I cannot explain to you what my high school meant to me.
I'll try and explain.
I know a lot of people didn't have the best time in high school, but I feel like high school, I still secretly would go back. No, that's not true. I wouldn't. But I went to high school with like my three best friends from literally nursery school. And then we found like
We found each other.
we did not find each other.
You and your friends.
Yeah, we did. We found our people, and I don't know, I just feel like we just saved each other. And I always say this too, that if I hadn't made friends with the people that I made friends with, I probably would have just done drugs, because that's what other people were doing, or like slept around. I don't know. The ills of high school are rife and fraught with peril.
Okay, so
And as you know, I'm like very easily
yeah,
influenced.
it's gonna
No, that's what I'm saying. It was such a blessing that I made friends with the people that I made friends with. They were magnificently beautiful and still are.
Oh, that's the most important thing. They're beautiful. What else is it?
Nothing. That's what I want to say.
Okay.
They were the highest achievers academically.
All of them.
Absolutely. Yes.
I get
Firstly,
what you're saying.
two of my best friends were head girl and deputy head girl, and they like scored in the top of the country. And then the rest of our group, not necessarily me included, proportionately we got like the most distinctions.
Okay. Yeah.
And now stops rolling and awards, and I'm just saying, like,
It's falling asleep.
tell us about your high school experiences, Johnny.
It's
Crickets.
not necessary. We get the point.
You have it.
It was very important for you, high school.
And it wasn't just the friends. We had like prolific teachers. Two of my matric teachers had PhDs in their subjects and were also lecturers at BITS. It was the most amazing school. Every single person had a place, not just the cool kids, the sportsmen, the academics, the thespians. And now it's all ending in December, which is less than half a year away. Where are we now? August.
Okay, so why is it closing down?
Because it's the best decision for everyone.
I'm just surprised that everyone is so surprised.
Well, when I was in school, I matriculated 21 years ago,
Wow, you're old.
but I don't look at honey. There was talk of this. It was always the talk to close this campus and consolidate the schools.
So it's taken 20 years for it to manifest.
Because this was when I was in like standard 6, standard 7. So call it 25, quarter of a century. And there was always rumblings. And they always managed to pull a rabbit out of the hat, which is what you said on our previous episode. Like the small schools consolidating, someone will always...
So they kicked the can down the road, right?
But produced wonderful students.
I mean, but that's wonderful and all, but...
No, this is the facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to look at it in a few ways. Yes, it's sad, but ultimately, like, I don't know what students are saying, oh no, we need to keep it alive. And I don't know if they are saying that. But if they are, I would say to them, okay, well, are you going to write out a check to keep it going?
It's crazy that you just said that, because we had our 20-year reunion last year on Zoom, but the entire focus of the reunion was fundraising from alum. I remember saying to you, like, at the end of the day, did my time, my parents paid school fees and did whatever at the time. And now, if there's a school that I'm going to donate to, it will be the school that my children are going to.
Which is not the same one.
Which is not the school that I went to. And that speaks to your point. At the end of the day, I can cry about it, but I'm not actually going to put my money there. All $5,000 that I have.
Yeah, so coming back to my point, I'm surprised that people are surprised. I think, for me, I was thinking about this, and that is, Yeah, I mean, if you read the letter, it's like very well crafted, and they try to like spin it as great spin. Whoever wrote that is really good writer. It was Grok, or they probably got like a super Grok, ChatGPT, Perplexity, because
And then a team of attorneys.
because it was all like, this isn't the end.
That's what I'm saying.
But okay, that's spin. I understand PR, whatever you want to call it. My understanding is they had to do it, right? They had to do it. But what I was just thinking also is that if you look at it, so if you kind of compare this school closing down, it's very corporate how they are spinning it. It's corporate in the lingo, and the fact that they're actually doing it is corporate. If you have an operation that isn't sustainable, you discontinue the operation. They're doing that. It's not sustainable. So that's like very corporate. That's very private sector-ish. And then you look at, if you compare it to government, which is the public sector, that for me, under that umbrella, will be all these small schools that are running it like a fish and chip shop that should also be consolidating, but they don't. So again, I'm spinning it just completely in terms of what they're doing monetarily, in terms of demographics. At the end of the day, demographics are destiny for the good and the bad. And so they are being very corporate, very real. We can't afford it. Let's consolidate, do it properly. Whereas these other schools and institutions they are happy to kick the can down the road, and they are very much like the government. Whereas the school that we are referring to is being very realistic, and they are, again,
which is what makes them a great school.
Yeah, that's what and unfortunately, again, there will be retrenchments.
That kills.
And in terms of that,
I just think of my big thing yesterday when my friends and I were discussing this. Yes, in terms of the students, schools are phased. They'll, friends will stick together. They'll either consolidate but the staff, there are teachers at that school who have been there since before I was there, who are veterans. And I just hope that the other schools within our community aren't stupid and actually fight over who gets that brain power, because I want those people for my kids. But I think for me, if I remove my emotion from it, which is difficult, obviously, but not that difficult, this is the right thing to do. And it is going to be better for the school, for the students, for everyone. But hopefully, I really hope that we can all use this as an example to course correct as a community, to course correct the way that we spend money. Because as hard as this is, they're going to rip off the Band-Aid, and they're going to consolidate the campuses, they're going to consolidate the school, and ultimately it will be better. Like, it's so hard, and for the school and for the students of the school. There's strength in numbers, put everyone together, build a bigger force, build a stronger force, consolidate the pot. I think that they're going to lose a lot of students to other schools that aren't in the same kind of background. They're going to lose schools and lose children to schools. Yes, a few will go to the other campus, but I think they're going to lose a lot of children. So they've obviously baked that in. I'm assuming that they're not that naive. Everyone's just going to now go to a new campus, which is 100 kilometers away. Very far away. Well, there's the fact of the remedial element. There's a separate entity of a remedial school, which is obviously its own draw card. So I think that is separate. If you're willing to travel for remediation in education, that's not campus dependent. And perhaps even the remedial element of the school, we have no idea, but I would imagine, if I look at our kids' school, was probably a big float, because remedial education is such a big deal at the moment.
And expensive.
So expensive, and people are willing to pay for it because they want their children to be educated, obviously. Yes, there will be casualties. Definitely, I feel like I'm a casualty, and I've been out of school for 21 years. And there was a moment last night that I was like, well, now that option of one day sending my kids there no longer exists.
It's like on Shrek. Some of you may die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Okay, so we could sit here and caricature the corporate people.
No, I just think, okay, so this is happening.
It is.
And maybe, let me go back a step. So after last week's episode, they had quite a bit of feedback, which is great, obviously. And people were saying, so what's the solution? So I've got some ideas, which, I'm not going to talk about right now, but I've got some ideas. But I think the first step to dealing with anything is, let's talk about it. let's actually
What did you say?
let's ventilate these issues. Let's talk about them because that's a starting point, right? Where it leads to, I don't know, hopefully it can lead to some big things.
Firstly, I want to say something. You told me I mustn't shout, and now I'm not mentioning any names, but someone in the podcast is raising their voice because they find me sounded. I just want to remind everyone that it's not necessary because we have audio. Number two, this concept of ventilating the problem, which you said to me yesterday, and I still have not gotten over that phraseology. I think it's so outstanding.
I thought you were being facetious.
No, I wasn't. For someone who suffers with word retrieval aphasia, you've hit me with some bangers in the last 48 hours.
And I've hit you with some bangers.
Not recently, though. Moving swiftly along. Ventilating the problem is my kind of territory because it talks to shame versus confidence, and it's very grounded in psychology.
I thought you were going to say because you've got a lung disease, terrible lung disease.
I do, but that's not.
Edit that out. But it's offending.
Funny. What I want to say is, I always say the key, the solution, the course correction, the pivot point is confidence. If our contemporaries had the confidence that you and I have to say, you can come to me for a meal, but you're getting chicken legs and rice, but I'm always met with the same response, which is not everyone, and probably no one has my level of self-confidence. You are very quietly confident. You're a silent assassin. I'm just very obtrusively confident. If we take a step back and say, okay, it's very unlikely for people to just magically develop a confidence in something that already they're so insecure about, then speaking about the fact that we actually all going through this. Yes, some people have more resources than others, and some people have less debt than others, but every single, some people have more debt than others. And some
What you said, have more death than others.
Well, that's actually is also true. We all in it.
We're in it to win it, but we're not winning it.
We're not winning it. And besides for that tiny little bracket at the top that literally it's cheaper for them to wipe their bum with a 10 Rand note than go out and buy toilet paper, everyone in the middle class is in it.
Yeah, so I think a couple of points. Firstly, just to reiterate, if I just look at the spectrum of people in any community, because this isn't, only our community, and that is you have the top 10%, you have the bottom 10%, okay, again, it could be 10, 15, but the chunk in the middle is by far the majority. And I call them
suffering.
Yeah, and suffering, and I call them the missing middle. And you could call them the missing middle class. Again, that's quite a big swath.
Can I tell you what I want to say about the middle class? So I've said this to you before privately. I get so excited about South Africa as a developing country because I feel like finally, for the first time in my lifetime, I'm seeing the development of the middle class and the economic empowerment from that bottom, previously disadvantaged bracket into the economically active, functioning middle class. And I see it wherever I go. I love to use the example of the gym, because I see the tellers from Pick and Pay coming up to gym after work to have a workout. I see women who are quite obviously domestic workers coming after work, changing and doing a workout. And then I see people that we know, obviously, because it's close to where we live. I just think in those pockets of places is where you see real people. And the fact that gyms are so full shows you that real people are economically active to a point that they can take out a gym membership, and that they want to improve themselves to the point that they want to exercise. So this middle class thing, this is very salient, is that it's not exclusive to the private sector, to people who are sending their children to private schools, and certainly not exclusive to our community. This idea of the middle class bearing the most brunt and carrying the most weight and holding the most shame is prolific.
Yeah, agreed. Just when you were speaking about the gym situations, agree with you in terms of the spectrum of people that are at the gym. But also, interestingly enough, they closed down 3 gyms in Soweto. There were 3 Virgin Actives in and around Soweto. They all closed down. So the first thing that you cancel when you can't afford is going to be gyms, going to be those kind of discretionary things. But the things that you can't afford, yet you can't cancel, those are the big hitters. And because I've met so many people over the last few years, I've got I've got quite a varied kind of, what was the word we used? Profile of people, and the expense that any middle class family has to incur just to get through is obscene. I'll very basically, right, plus minus the numbers that I have. I'll look at 4 different types of people, family. The first one is like a single, call it mother, father, that has like one child at home, either the widow or divorce. Their monthly expenditure, whether they're renting or they have a old house that they are still paying the bond, their monthly expenses are 60, 70,000 rand, right?
Net to survive.
To survive, right? That's like a one, again, it's very general, 70, 75,000 rand expenses. That's one profile. Second profile is a family, has 2 children, they renting somewhere, their kids are at school, but they do get a subsidy. Again, that expense line with a medical aid, basic medical aid, 100,000 rand.
You cannot expect
100,000 rand to survive, right? That's profile.
Housing, medical, food.
Profile and insurance. Profile number 3 is where you live in a house and you've got 3 children. You don't get a subsidy at the school. You may get a very small subsidy, but both parents are working. You're leasing either one car or 2 cars. That monthly expenditure is 200,000 rand.
Could we say that 200,000 bracket is what you found most of our contemporaries in?
Yeah. So again, the simple one, 70K. Second one is 100,000, and then the third one, which is most people, in and around this 200,000 rand a month
to survive.
And then you have
educate your children.
And then the fourth bracket is the guys that are
going overseas 3 times a year.
They are going overseas a lot, but the husband usually has like a top job, but there is also family wealth and coming to the spectrum. They're spending 300K a month.
Or perhaps they're not spending 300 because maybe the houses and the cars and the holidays are part
so they don't have to worry about paying the bond.
But they're living at 300,000 rand lifestyle.
Yeah. So now the question is, for 200,000 rand net, and I'm saying for average kind of person, 200,000 rand a month. Again, I
just want to pause there for a second because that number is so shocking. 200,000. You hear this? I have to net 200,000 rand to keep a roof over my head, feed myself and my children, clothe myself and my children, educate my children, and make sure that medically we are vaguely looked after there and thereabouts, and we have some reasonable form of insurance, and we can drive a car to get to and from work.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
So
we're not saying that you can buy a designer handbag or go on a lavish holiday. We're saying 200,000 rand to live to survive in the middle class.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at a profile here, this on my phone, and this profile, they spend 200,000 rand a month. Okay, but here's the problem. The problem is the husband only nets 100,000 rand, which is a big salary. Right.
Yeah, but what's a gross salary? If he's netting 100K, what's he grossing? What is his gross salary?
It's about 150 odd, something like that.
Which is massive.
And
people don't earn that.
And the wife is also bringing in 50K a month. So they are netting together 150,000 rand, but the expenses here are 200,000 rand. What do you say? The math isn't mathing. There's a 50,000 rand shortfall.
Every single month.
Every single month. And their debt situation, I'm just looking at it here. I'm not looking at a certain family. I've created these profiles, as I said, but I've kind of averaged it out, and they are paying the minimum amount on their credit cards, minimum amount on their loan, etc., and that debt is just blowing up because of the shortfall.
Tell me about this profile. Where is their debt? I would assume it's obviously a home loan and car repayments because that's the most obvious, but that's not all. Like, are they doing sort of short-term loans to try bridge the gap here and there? Yeah. Obviously, if there's a shortfall every month, they have to, every now and again, they have to plug that hole.
Yeah, so I mean, you have extreme cases where they've they maxed out their credit, their bond. Okay, so they max out their bond, then there's nothing more to take from the bond. So then what they do is they max out not one or two credit cards. He's got one, she's got one.
Maybe he's got 2.
Yeah, I mean, potentially. Then it's overdraft, that kind of thing. Some people also, even in this bracket, what I see is that they have taken out loans from friend. I see this a lot. Friends in the community. Friends in the community, and then there's communal organizations that are also providing short-term loans.
Yeah, but there's banks also give short-term loans.
Yeah, fine. there are short. I don't see that. What I do still see is there's still people repaying their COVID loans. They're still repaying their COVID loans, and it's a mess.
And also, perhaps, let's say you have a month where you've got a deficit. That month, maybe you don't pay your school fees, and you think to yourself, "I'll catch it up."
Yeah, that's one thing. So there's the school fees, and then there's life insurance. Look, for me, life insurance is an interesting one because generally, why do you have life insurance? I mean, there are other reasons, but number one is you have it as a planning kind of wealth for your family one day. So it's a hedge against.
Well, you think to yourself, if I'm not really building wealth in my
Yeah.
life, it's kind of to ensure that there's an inheritance for your
Yes.
children.
So it's kind of that one day. So that kind of policy you'll keep until you die.
But
right?
what if you lapse that?
So but then I'm just trying to explain it back.
Oh, I see.
There's another kind of a life policy reason is, no, I only need it until I've paid my bond. Once I've paid my bond, then I'll cancel it, kind of thing. So you have it for a certain amount of
And also, there's is that different to a retirement policy? Obviously,
Yeah.
retirement is kind of like forced savings.
Well, I was going to say to you, and this is also, I have to stress it, and that is, so again, are we getting to a solution? No, we're just kind of going through the problems. But I think it's so important for people to hear, because all of these numbers that I was going through when I was putting this profile together, their saving was either zero, saving investing, or the only saving investing they had was through their company's pension fund. And a lot of those ones have already drawn out and are planning on taking out more from it.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to normalize the fact that no one has saving. To say, oh, don't worry, guys, your neighbor doesn't have saving. But what I'm saying is, I understand, and it's. I'm trying to normalize the abnormal situation. That's what I'm trying to do with regards to this.
Well, I think what you're trying to do, which I've seen you do behind the scenes, is you're trying to say, not don't worry, but you are not the only one who's struggling to keep his head above water. Make no mistake, Tom and Larry and Jimmy and Buddy and Shmimmy are struggling to come up for air at all. We're talking about people that we know to be CFOs, attorneys, high earners.
I think, yeah, exactly. I think the point is, if we stop there and then we just are, because what it does create is a lot of jealousy, a lot of issues where you say, oh, I wonder how much she earns. I wonder how much she earns. How do they afford that? Again, that's like a social dynamic. But
it's very connected here, that social dynamic, because jealousy leads to, I want to compete. And I personally believe, and I think that you believe this as well, this all does actually come down to psychology, in that if we can all just say to each other, hey, I'm out, pause game, I'm not competing with you anymore, can you stop competing with me? We can't keep it up. And I think that's what my school did. Hard, but ultimately for the good. We can't play anymore.
Yeah, 100%. All I wanted to say is that we have to start talking about it and normalize the abnormal situation. Because once we're talking about it, it's not brushed under the carpet. Because what happens is that what's under the carpet, that debt just gets bigger and bigger. And unfortunately, again, you have the social ills of divorce and substance abuse and suicide and just depression, etc., etc.
Parents are in some sort of a position to help you here and there. But then we have a reversal of roles where our generation becomes financially reliant upon our parents' generation. Again, there isn't going to be an improvement financially as the generations continue to spawn, because we're eating into any reserves that are being held in the generation above us. We aren't making any preparations for the generation below us. What, are we going to descend into socialism? Like, I'm not actually sure.
I think maybe it's a topic for another podcast, but I just think that, we said earlier on, we're not going to compete with each other, right? So that's part of an approach. But at the end of the day, even if we're not competing with each other, and we all say, okay, guys, we all agree, pinky promise, I'm not going to buy anything fancy, and my lunches are going to be not so magnificent. At the end of the day, we still, doesn't matter how much we pinky promise, the school fees are still ridiculously high, and everything else is still very high. I think and this is something which I think we could talk about more in a further podcast. What I want to say is that chicken actually is cheap.
It's the cheapest of the meat.
It's the cheapest of the meats. So what I mean by that, again, it's a metaphor. If you don't feel like chicken or you can't afford chicken, then you can buy bread and butter or bread and peanut butter, and your tummy will still be full.
Noodles and cheese.
Noodles and cheese. Cheese is quite expensive, but I get noodles and tomato sauce. The point is that
You'll survive.
there was in our community an inquiry on the price of chicken. Seriously.
That's crippling us.
Chicken isn't crippling us. Again, it's maybe a little bit more expensive than
Bread and butter.
Yeah, but there's an alternative when it comes to schooling, and this is across all different types of communities, is that unfortunately one can't send your children to a government school. You have to send them to a private school. So what do we do about that? That's something that warrants investigating and an inquiry. That is, again, it's actually bizarre that I'm saying it because I've thought about it so much.
And also, you could say, no, medical aid so expensive. Actually, you and I on a hospital plan, you and I and our 4 children and all of our parents and in-laws are on hospital plans with gap cover. That is medical insurance. That's what they have overseas. You can have medical insurance. If God forbid there's an emergency, you'll be taken to hospital. And from day to day, number one, have common sense. We're not hypochondriacs. If our children have a fever, we'll give them some Panado. We don't buy into the nonsense that our very privileged middle-class children need OT and speech therapy and talk therapy and play therapy and walking therapy and drama therapy. Thank God our children are healthy. No one that we know has had a stroke. No one needs to be taught to walk and talk again. And they don't need therapies. So what you always met with is, no, my child needs therapies. And the therapies are 15,000 Rand a month, so therefore I need to be on the... That's not a need.
Well, yeah, there's 2 things. I'm not going to mention any medical aid names, so don't be sued. But the whole thing of a medical savings plan is the biggest Ponzi scheme ever created.
Rather buy essential oil if you want Ponzi.
It's just a massive Ponzi scheme. This is going to be the one guy that goes, yeah, but I've got so much out of it. That's one out of how many people get so much out of medical savings.
Okay, cool. Go get your free ticket to Cape Town. Fine.
That's the first point. The second point is we were told by our children's teachers and that we needed to go for therapy.
And they needed, each child needed a therapies.
I didn't want to do it, but we sent our one child for therapy. And
firstly, we sent our one child for one of the therapies that was recommended for a set period of months. And after because we thought, that's what we can afford. They wanted 2 assessments, 2 therapies, blah, blah, blah. We felt that the one form of therapy was potentially justifiable and we could afford to let it run for a couple of months, which we did. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure if his development is just development, which is totally age appropriate at 4 and 5 and 6. Birth order, he's the 3rd, not the 1st, he gets less attention, or if it was the therapy. But honestly, give me my 40,000 Rand back.
Yeah, I think that...
So we canned it. We told the school, we can't afford it.
At the end of the day, the nursery school teacher must help him cut better, and that's...
Or in 5 years' time, when scissors are obsolete, he'll use a laser cutter, or he'll figure it out.
But you know what this comes down to? This is the same thing about these institutions.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's fear, but it's also just there's just expediency, and that is they want to get more people in the system because they need to pay their salaries. They need to, keep the system alive. So it's all about money at the end of the day.
Yeah. But we're supposed to be paying, and we don't have the money.
Okay, well, I'm opting out.
So that should not chicken is cheap. Opt out. We all need to bloody opt out of this shit.
There's certain things that you can opt out, like what do not advocate is when it comes to tax. Some people feel that, tax is optional and,
not
optional.
You go to jail.
Right. But that, besides for tax, again, other laws in the country, but when it comes to this kind of thing, opt out.
Opt out if it's not legal. There's no law that says your child has to have OT. There's no law that says your child has to be brilliant at soccer and maths and drawing. Since when? In fact, this is my own tangent and I won't go on it, but why aren't we trying to raise experts? He's not an artist, right? But speaking to your point of why is the school fee system not being investigated?
It's a business.
The point I was trying to make is, if you make the complaint that medical aid is expensive, you can choose to be on an affordable plan.
Ooh.
We are on an affordable plan.
You can actually,
I'm just saying the options.
Yeah.
If you say that living in a house is expensive, you can choose to rent a flat. You can make that choice. There isn't an alternative choice that doesn't bankrupt the community of schooling. It's private school or private school. And if you make a choice to get a subsidy and go down that route, you're making the whole bigger ultimately. I'm not shaming anyone on a subsidy because there are, as you say, very genuine cases, but there are also very disingenuous cases.
Yeah.
A lot.
But the pricing that they're charging us shouldn't be that price at the end of the day. People shouldn't be, not all, but most people should be applying for a subsidy because they should be able to afford it.
They should be able to afford school fees, or perhaps you could make the argument, I'm not making this argument, but it exists, we should be getting more because we're paying such a premium. There's also that option.
Yeah, again, I think there's things we can discuss. Maybe let's hear what the viewers have to say. Bring them into the picture.
How can we do that? WhatsApp Johnny.
Don't WhatsApp me, just leave some comments. Comments. I want lots of comments. The good, the bad, the ugly.
You must also follow the money guy, even though he doesn't post content at all.
This isn't about me. This is about the people, the fans.
Where's your makeup, bro? I made your money guy sash. So you can say, I need my sash. Yes, you want it.
What colour? No, I want it.
To close, final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
We need to
Talk about it. We need to talk about it, and then that's the starting point. We don't have to, because everyone is like,
what's the solution to student gratification?
Yeah, they just want to know what's the solution. I don't have the solution right now. Give me a little time. But let's talk about it. Let's not rush into the culprit.
There's no solution, but there's an option to course correct.
What Thomas Sowell said, one of the greatest economists, is there's no solution. There's only trade-offs.
Totally.
There's always going to be an opportunity cost if you choose A instead of B. Always.
Well, if you choose to opt out, which I would certainly propose as an option of a solution or an option of a strategy to course correct, opt out, that comes with a lot of scorn and being labeled as other. I know even the engagement that I did participate in with regards to therapies for our child was totally out of fear. The school is going to do X, Y, and Z. The school is going to say X, Y, and Z. Therefore, I need to play their game. I was confident enough to say I'm only going to play it as long as I can afford it. But there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. So I trade off opting out and having that extra money in my bank account with knowing that I'm going to be seen as a crazy person. You don't think I'm crazy though, do you? You love me anyway. Let's start.
Yeah.
Be honest.
Of course, darling.
I want everyone to know that you are very strange and autistic, but I love you anyway, even though you drive me crazy. That's why I'm a crazy person, because you drove me there. I was totally normal before I met you. Are you happy? Is there anything else you'd like to ventilate?
I think let's leave some for future episodes.
No, I agree. That's why I'm winding down right now. Not holding my hand back, are you? It's a lame. High five, sis. You bored yourself then, pal.
No, it was a joke. I'm not bored. But